On the air, people. Welcome back. Deputy Tisdale, how are you?
Hey, doing great. Had a great night, well, before watching the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I feel great.
You feel great? Even with Kansas City winning.
Oh, yeah.
What a Steeler fan. What a typical Steeler fan.
I do run a Steeler podcast on the offsides, but
Right.
the thing about it is that my brother, he's a huge 49er fan.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and I was going to go with the 49ers, but you know what? I hope he's watching, and he probably will be because I'm going to let him know about this. But
Right.
I was going to back the 49ers, and he said, no, the 49ers are going to win by 7. You take it here, you take it from me.
Oh, wow.
How did that work out for him?
Yeah,
sir?
right. Yeah. He's washing dishes right now somewhere. Trying to pay for his meal. You know what my MVP was, though?
Who?
Kelsey. But the other Kelsey brother. Did you see how he walked in?
Yeah.
He looked like Alan. He had the whole get up. He had the man purse, or what's it called?
Yeah, I love that. That was cool. I like that.
That was awesome. Like, that guy's got attitude. That's good.
That's a great Halloween
Yeah,
costume.
absolutely. That's great. To walk into Las Vegas with that, I'm like, the guy was thinking ahead. Where did he find the man purse? I have no idea. It's a satchel. Hey, serious business this week, though, on the podcast. Talking about Black History Month. Brought some great friends to the show. Dr. Jones, how are you?
Pretty good.
Good.
Pretty good. Happy to be here.
Yeah, and a dear friend of mine for a long time. Pastor, how are you?
I'm great. I'm great.
If I could just ask you gentlemen to do a little introduction of yourself instead of me embarrassing you, because I'm a big fan of both of yours.
Absolutely.
Doc.
Same here. I have the honor of serving as a community affairs executive here. Just trying my best to help out where I can, help bridge the gap between community and police relations. And I sort of feel like, back in the day, I used to play, all-time quarterback. You can play for both teams. So I sort of feel like I'm helping out where I can. I'll help with recruitment if I can. I'll help, with different events if I can. So I just happy to be here.
And input. A lot of times
yeah.
they'll just ring you up and like, hey, use some advice.
Yeah.
Use some advice. And Pastor, it's been 2010, I think we met, and you and a bunch of strange people show up at my door. Well, we knew a little before, but you show up at my door in Greece. I took over a very difficult police department, and I started every day on my knees in prayer because I had no idea what the hell I was doing. It was total chaos. And you guys show up, and before we know it, we're walking around praying around the building itself, and then just developed a great relationship with a bunch of pastors and other people, and been friends ever since. And another person I call, that old TV show, Phone a Friend. I've done it many times with both of you. Like, help, what do we do next?
Right.
But, good to have you. How about a little bit about yourself, Pastor?
Well, certainly.
Don Stevens, by the way, if I didn't say his name.
Yes. I am Donald Stevens.
Donald, I'm sorry.
I don't mind being called Don, but Donald Stevens. I certainly am the pastor of the Helping Hand Missionary Baptist Church at 703 Joseph Avenue, as well as the president of the Baptist Ministers Alliance of the Greater Rochester area and co-president of Education for Peace. And again, I do consider Sheriff a great friend, and certainly I know of Deputy Tisdale and Torrance. Definitely, we have done quite a bit together as far as community and law enforcement in bridging that gap. So I am so pleased to be here with the Giants.
That's awesome. So I'm going to start this podcast out as simple as possible. Black History Month, we know it, we hear it, we celebrate it, right? It's part of our DNA, it's part of our culture of America. It's becoming, the norm, right? But so that's awesome. But I just going to throw it at you guys. So what's it mean to you? I mean, so when you Black History Month, so what? Doc, so what?
Yeah. I just think on a very basic level, when I think, what does it mean to me? I think I am Black history, on a personal level. I remember just my mother and father, they grew up in the South, and they grew up actually in segregated schools. So they did not grow up in a system where schools were integrated when it comes to black and white. So before my father passed, I remember him just telling me, he would always ingrain this within me. I want you to make sure you get your education.
All right.
So, that's something that I pride myself on throughout my entire life. And now even just getting to the point where I just think about that as well. Wow, this is my parents' and my father's direct dream.
Yeah.
So I think of myself, I am Black history.
God bless.
Yeah, so that's what it means to me.
Pastor, beat that. That was good.
Of course it was. It is Dr. Torrance Jones. But certainly when I think of Black History Month, I think about growing up in the 60s and the 70s. And, things were always not white and black in a sense that, we couldn't go certain places. We had to do certain things, even back in the 60s and 70s, because I was born in the 50s. But when I think about Black History Month, I think about the fact that Black History Month is every month. And it's U.S., it's the American history. So again, we just feel like that, and it's good to have February for Black History Month. Don't get me wrong. But the fact of the matter is, every day, for me, is Black history.
Yeah, I hear you. Let me ask you guys also as well, and we all know how polarizing things are. Like we said, Black History Month has a weight to it now because there are different places that are now trying not to give that remembrance. You know what I mean? It's getting to that point.
Yeah.
And looking at you two guys, how good is it for the community to be engaged with law enforcement as well? Because that's a huge thing that's out there right now. And we know the community right now we're going through things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the importance of you guys getting things out there like that to the community and bridging that gap. I mean, just expound on that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think, the first thing I think about as it relates to all of this, I guess trying to pull this together, is just trust. So that's why it's very important. It's very, very important that both trust each other, whether it's law enforcement or community members, because if you don't have trust, then, it's chaotic after that. You can't really build anything from a lack of trust.
Right.
So I think that's very important, just how you connect with people. If you don't trust one another, then you can't build.
Right.
Yeah, and you can't deny the history, right?
Right.
You can't deny the history. I mean, and just the folks sitting around this table, I know we build every day. We try and build, and it'll always be a slip going backwards. That's life. That's human nature. That's people. But so we don't deny the history of law enforcement, right? And some of the things that we could have done better in the institution. But again, I wasn't there. But my job now is to learn from it and move it forward. And that's where you come, and Doc is counsel to me quite often, because I don't know what I don't know. And I just learned something new about you, too. I didn't realize your parents grew up in a segregated school. Yeah. That's profound. I don't have that experience. There's no way I can, right? So to have you close enough to trust to give me your opinion and then listen to mine. And sometimes I do what you tell me, sometimes I don't. But that's my job as a boss. But that's a powerful word you just gave, trust.
And again, it does relate to trust because of the simple fact, and I did say this on a podcast at the Round Table. One of the things about, and I call it the 3 T's, transparency. Yeah. When you're transparent, people can see who you truly are.
Right.
And that's why I said transparency, truth, and truth leads to trust. Once you can see that person for who they truly are, and it works in any arena. I mean, if you trust, if you transparent with the company you work for, you can certainly see the truth of that company, and you can be ingrained into the culture of the company, and then you trust them. So again, trust is the key. And as we learn each other, certainly sit down like this and have our meetings and we break bread together. Amen. We can certainly look into each other's eyes, and we can see each other for who we truly are. So, again, trust is always the bottom line.
Let me ask you also as well. What do you think is most misunderstood about Black History Month? Because and I'm speaking for myself. I think people just think that it's just this thing that okay, we got the month, so that's good enough. But I mean, like we said, it's that nurturing and trying to teach. I mean, what aspects do you grab from that?
I actually think that that there's more misunderstood than there is understood about Black History Month. Because usually you get this, why is it Black History? Why do we have the shortest month of the year? It's a whole bunch of stuff.
That was coming.
No, but it's and I guess it's a common. I grew up hearing the same thing when when I was in middle school. We got the shortest month of the year, but no, it was actually. It started out as a week, a week to celebrate Black history, and Carter G. Woodson,
that's right,
he PhD from Harvard University, and it actually began with another minister too. I'm just forgetting their name, but they came together. They developed a a group, and I'm forgetting the name of the group, but we have, thank God for Dr. Google, we can easily get the name. But they came up with a group to study the history
That's right.
of African American contributions. And the reason why we actually have it in February, it was to remember Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass, their birthday. So it started out as a week around their birthdays, and then it'll. I can let you take over because I'm done. But that's exactly how it originated, and then places all around the country started to pick up on it, and it evolved into an entire month. But that's why it's situated in February.
And the Rochester connection with
exactly.
And Dr. Torrance, I mean, we didn't rehearse this, but I mean, we have the same thing.
Yeah.
And the reason why they did it is because they wanted teachers to be able to have something to talk about when it came to the African Americans, the history of what we've done, and certainly one of the things I think about when I think about why it's misunderstood, because for us, every day is Black History, and again, I feel that even though we appreciate the month of February, it really doesn't hit like that, because every day for us we live the life, and we certainly have the cultural. So I looked at the Dr. Woodson, and certainly what happened with the other doctor, him coming out of Harvard and going to Howard to teach. So again, I think that's the misconception about the month. It's every day.
Right.
It's all year round.
Yeah.
364, 65 days a week, a day.
Absolutely. Amen. And the contributions that we have to illustrate, right? We have to bring these stories to life. And so that's going to bring me to my next question. And this wasn't, I'm checking your notes, Doc, make sure you don't have an answer this time. So, a default answer for most Americans to this question would be Dr. Martin Luther King, right? So that one's out. And so who is, when you want to bring these stories to life of people that have been influential in your life or influential in the American history, I'm thinking Booker T and folks like that, and like, so I'll go to we do Pastor first. Who would be outside of, of Dr. Martin Luther King?
That's
which
it.
Is,
you think of
who do you draw out and say that's an inspiration for me for Black History Month?
Well, when I think about that, I think of Langston Hughes. I think of some of and this year I do believe that is focused on the arts, African Americans' contributions to the arts. Right. So I focus on all the people that we don't talk about, because, as you said, Martin Luther King, we all know about Martin Luther King, and but how do we get to Martin Luther King?
Right.
And that's the question. All those people who shoulders he stood on to get there. So you think about the Maya Angelos, you think about the Carvers, you think about those guys who definitely contributed to society, and not just USA, but all over the world. So I do believe that it's the people like that who have influenced me.
Yeah, that's a great question, and there's so many different women and men that contributed to American history, and I don't want to get in trouble by naming a couple, right? That's because
the question was one, so you're kind of I pigeonholed you into that.
No,
so
that's fine.
If there was one person, you're like, man, every time I hear that name, I get goosebumps. So they motivate me. Or
I will answer though, because it started out, and you mentioned something that's very powerful. That whole Black identity.
Yes.
That's 365 for me. So the month in particular is a moment that's saturated in terms of acknowledging the history and contributions. But it's 365, and when I think about 365, I think about that direct connection with my parents, my mother and father. And if it wasn't for them teaching me just to have that intrinsic worth and value as an African American man,
Amen.
I wouldn't have known about the
Any
others.
of it,
Right. So I don't. Because, what'll happen is, he mentioned these two on the podcast, and then, 3 months later, these are his favorite people.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to get in trouble just for asking the question. One, what do you mean one?
No, but it's a great question. There's a lot. And we have Dr. Google, so we can Google a lot.
But you said something that is very, very prevalent. mom and dad.
Yeah.
When it comes to mom and dad, that's why we're here today. My father, he was tough. He was tough on me and my brother, and he said that you got to have good work ethics. He says, I will help you along the way, but you have to help yourself. He's helping me to become the man that I should be, and that worked for me and my brother. And certainly, it just taught us that we had to work for what we had, and no excuses. My dad didn't take any excuses.
That's powerful,
And I'm happy for that.
Yeah.
Truly.
That hard work piece is very important because that even connects to, as I'm thinking of that Christian aspect for me. Obviously I have a black identity, but I also have a Christian identity. And though that Christian identity was also ingrained from my parents, and that hard work aspect with it, it's like, okay, it doesn't matter what you're going through in society. You need to be the best that you can be, and you need to constantly work at it. The only thing that works is hard work, and that's it. You have to work hard, and you have to, as you're working hard. There's a saying, I'm forgetting the theologian years ago, I think in the 1500s, you have to work as if everything depends on you, but pray as if everything depends on God. And that's how I sort of live my life. Pray as if everything depends on God, but you have to work as if everything depends on you. And that was, a value of my parents. Just like you mentioned, my parents was born in the 40s. So that was a value that was instilled within me.
Yeah. And they had a lot to overcome. I mean, we all still do, right? But the effect is, and people love work. People love work ethic, right? People love to be around people with work ethic. That's why we do all these background checks for cops. We give them a lot of power, a lot of authority in our communities, right? And the two things I keep on telling my background is just bring me work ethic and character. I can train the rest. Give me work ethic, and it'll take you places in life. We do 6 months of investigating, and at the end of the day, it comes down to they got work ethic and character. That's what I want to know. And those are two very important. So, Doc, you mentioned your family and your parents pushing you towards that education, your dad, and that was something we were talking off air, as the guys with the B-roll couldn't find a mic or couldn't find a remote. But we'll share. We won't mention any names.
Threw you under the bus. He threw you under the bus.
But with that being said, your education is profound. I mean, you took that advice or that direction or that guidance, and you no pun intended, you scored a touchdown. I think when it comes to education, because it led you to Alfred and playing a little football. But a little bit about your education. So, what do you do with that advice?
I just I try my best just to keep going. And I never, when I first started going to college, I never thought to myself, I want to become a doctor one day. I actually didn't want to go to school. Football was really that vehicle, and it was like, oh wow, I get to play football for 4 more years. Sure, I'll go to college. I'll go to college and I'll take heed to what my dad said. So it was like an evolving kind of thing for me. But through college, I played football at Alfred University. I bleed purple and gold through my team. So, and then it went to grad school, and through that, just had a wonderful opportunity to study abroad at Jerusalem University. And it was a phenomenal time. And then as time progressed, it was like, wow, I have an opportunity to do something special here. Key. So, then I just kept furthering my education. But I never thought to myself, this is what I'm about to do. It was like an evolving kind of thing. Yeah.
But if I can just say this, good work ethics lead to great opportunities.
Right.
And that's what you're talking about, these opportunities. And I'm blessed for the opportunities just to be here. I count it as privilege. So just to, give my 2 cents about the history of African American folks and what I know. And he said his parents was born in the 40s. I'm in the 50s, so it lets you know who the old guy at the table is.
I wasn't going to say anything.
Now, for all the younger guys that's out there, all the younger people out there, what do you both see as the main objective or the main focus of Black History Month? What should it instill out there to these younger individuals, or the guys, especially the younger ones out there now? They're the ones that's going through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh boy, it's tough. It's tough right now. And I guess I'll think specific to our own context in Rochester, Monroe County. But a good message to the younger ones out there, you really do have to you have to work. You know, you control your own destiny by the things that you do. You know, nobody else can give you any kind of handout. You really do have to work for it, and you have to become, I guess, quote unquote, and I'm speaking specifically to African Americans. You have to become Black excellence. You know, you have to become exactly what you want, and whether that's leveraging your networks so that you can figure out, there's a lot of capital in your networks,
right.
Leveraging your networks, or whether that's further education. Higher education is not for everybody, and that's okay. But you have to use all of these currencies. Whether if you have funds, then you use your funds to try and do what you can. If you don't have funds, you use your education. If you don't have education, you use your networks. If you don't have your networks, then you use your time. You have a lot of time on your hands, so you use the time to try and build these different connections. But you have to ultimately become what you want to be. Yeah.
And when you see, for the youth that you're talking about at this time, they need to see the richness of the history, the culture, of background that they came from, so that they can understand that the possibilities and certainly the opportunities that are available to them if they would just apply themselves. And one of the things, if I may add this, being in the jail, certainly for jail ministries, when I get to talk to the young guys, and I thank you for the opportunity to do that, because
both
again,
of you have given your time, your treasure.
It is a blessing.
Inside the walls of that jail. You guys are, I'll put it right out if you don't mind me butting in, but these two gentlemen walk the walk. They talk the talk. They're in the jail ministering in the most difficult environment I could think possible to minister. And that's a true calling for you people, as deep in your DNA as people, right? As human beings, your love for other, even people that are incarcerated, right? Your love for them is amazing. So I cut you off, Pastor, but I wanted to make sure I hit that. There's a B-roll of Doc and with a Bible on the bars. It's one of my favorite pictures. The sheriff.
Yeah,
but that's the thing. It's just not a blessing for us to be able to do that for them, but it's also for us. Because let me just say this, and I tease them all the time. I says, this is the only place that I have a captive audience. And they love it. But you know what? The impact of what's going on, because, I'm allowed to have a release ministry with that, because we don't just minister them in this place, but after they come out, we stay with them. We help them get into jobs. We help them get into housing, and we keep it up. So it's 3 or 4 that have gotten out, and one we are able to get a job at where I work at, and certainly our company is going with a non-for-profit Beyond Rochester, and we're providing opportunities to inner city youth to go down to Washington to see some things, because most of these guys do not get out of the city. And we're doing it with Young Women's College Prep as well, but later on. But most of these folks don't get out of the city unless they're going to a reunion or something like that. But we want to give them some experiences that they can really help them along the way. So I'm grateful to Gary Kerwin for that, because, again, he's investing in the youth. So, and we appreciate it. And again, Sheriff, what you do as well, walking the streets and coming down to the church and, bridging the gap is another thing that the sheriff's involved in. All of law enforcement in Monroe County is involved in that. The sheriff always speaks at the RIT event for Education for Peace, where we have the peace ambassadors at the school, and we just are grateful because the connection, the influence of that is powerful. It's just powerful. So,
there's a strong word. President Obama, obviously had to run for political office and had to run a campaign. So I studied. I studied a lot of politicians. Like, how did they make this happen? And President Obama, he coined 2 words: hope and change. Right? Hope is. You just said it. That's why it dawned on me that word. What you're doing is you're providing hope. You're providing. Those opportunities are like, wow, there's a big world out here, and now I can have a dream, right? Now I can start dreaming of something different, and those are powerful, intentional actions that you guys create for people, and that's amazing.
Yeah, and that's huge, like I said, because my thought process is, like you said, when guys are incarcerated, they're behind bars, and the mind starts to drift, you know what I mean? And it's like the sheriff does a good job of trying to find help for these guys within the bars, but the thing about it is like, that mental aspect where you guys come in and, keeping faith, keeping hope, keeping, things like that. And that's why I said this vehicle, which and the things that you guys are doing out there are huge, whether you guys realize it or not.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was actually my first introduction to the sheriff's office when I started doing the work of chaplaincy here. And I was actually literally this past week had a conversation with an ex-offender on the outside. And, they said, when you have an opportunity to talk to a chaplain, even if it's once a week, that's like the highlight
That's awesome. That's great feedback.
Yeah,
it really
and
is.
it's very powerful because you're right. You have an opportunity, even if you're just talking to them about, life, right? And just anything, it gives just somebody that sense of hope. But no, it was one of the, if I had, to pick like top 3 things that I've ever done in my career, that's definitely in the top 3.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful too, being grounded, right? And doctor, quite a title, pastor, and 14 other titles you have, pastor, and because you're a busy man, sheriff. At the end of the day, it's really irrelevant. It really is, right? How you treat people and that your heart bleeds for other people. That's powerful stuff. And young people look at that and like, well, that's what it looks like. All right.
Yeah,
that's what it looks like. Right. Or like you said earlier with your 3 T's, that's what it looks like when you take responsibility, when you screwed up. Right. And I've done that a few times in my career. Right. Do it at home, maybe not as often as I should with the wife, but that's where that trust comes from. You got to go through those other 2 T's and people can see it. And that's powerful stuff. We, is that Enon?
Yes.
This is a great church. Genesee Street.
Yeah.
Man. Burn some calories worshiping there. Kyle's dancing. My conservative little church, right? Like, sit down, shut up, don't. You throw in an amen, or they're escorting you out.
Yeah. Black history.
You go to Enon. You're sweating.
Yes.
You're sweating. People are starting wearing step meters in church. They're like, I love it. Let's go.
Awesome.
Absolutely. And that's I love the richness of that the church in particular. Right? Yeah. I don't think I've ever been over Joseph Avenue to worship. Go there for a lot of meetings. Have I ever been in your church to worship?
Once.
Have you?
Yes.
Okay, God bless.
Again, like you said, it's the same atmosphere because we love praising and singing and serving the word.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, when I walk into a church and I see drums, I'm like, all right, here we go. This is good. Drums.
We have a full band, and they don't mess around.
Yeah. What was the church over in Pennsylvania having a totally different story? I caught the burglar in there that one night. Like,
Pentecost.
Yeah, Pentecost.
So.
And we have a lot of interrelationship going on.
Oh, yeah. We've got some years.
I'm calling like, hey, the pastor over here can open up the building. I think there's a burglar in there. Did they have friends?
And I still had the key because I was the assistant pastor. So I had the key. But I got my nephew lived around the corner. He came in,
Sure enough, the guy was hiding in the closet. Like, all right. Come out.
That was
the pastor was there when we took him out of the closet.
That was the best day of his life, by the way.
He enjoyed it. He was watching Cops Live. Yeah. Like right there. You're breaking into a church, dude. You need help. Go knock on the door or call them. You're breaking into a church. I don't think God likes that. Come on. I don't think God likes that. I know the penal law doesn't like it, but I don't think God likes it either. But that's awesome. So awesome. Well, wait, can you believe it? Half hour it is.
Yeah.
Half hour. Everybody's looking at the clock. Man.
When you're talking to guys, like I said, who out there letting us all know, especially younger kids. That's why I was glad that you guys put out the information on that to the younger guys out there about Black History Month. Amen. And a lot of them take it lightly, and they need to see what it is. Like you said, Black excellence. The guys are out there doing it. And not just taking that stone, but turning that stone into a boulder by doing positive things. And you guys are out there pushing in the community. So, like I said, we here, thank you. Especially bridging that gap, which is huge, and especially with law enforcement.
And I just want to acknowledge, and again, I'm sitting here as a white male police officer saying this, so I say it with some reservation or some, a lot of caution. The pastor grew up in it, right? The pastor, I know his history and I know his story, and he's been in it. He's been in the hospital room a few times, right? And so it wasn't an easy upbringing. And Doc, I mean, your parents were actually, my generation and beyond, my kids. I got to share these stories. They need to hear that Dr. Torrance Jones' parents couldn't drink out of the same water fountain. It's not a history book. right? That's real. We can touch these people. So we can't, whitewash this, if you will, and say, oh, that's old history. No, this is real. And the more we can share these conversations, the more we can talk about these things and celebrate the history of the great people. So we so appreciate you coming on, sharing a little bit about that, and opening up and the 3 T's. Simple things. I like them. I just keep those 3 T's going, and that's how you get trust.
It's definitely a blessing to be here, and I appreciate you sharing that. And actually just even appreciate you just as the head and chief of the organization. And I don't want that to be taken lightly. Like I remember, before our racial pandemic, if you will, of 2020. I remember back in 2018. I think that was the year. You took it upon yourself as a leader to say, I'm going to actually promote the first African American as a bureau chief, and I remember that, and a lot of people remember that, and obviously it was far beyond just being African American because he fit the qualifications. Absolutely. But you're intentional about that, and you value diversity, and that's something that I definitely want to just mention here. It's not something that should be taken lightly. So thank you.
And again, to Sheriff, when you were preparing yourself. Go ahead.
No, and you did it more than just once. Yes. I think 3 times.
When he was preparing for office, he met at the Ministers Alliance. He came down, he let us lay hands on him. And again, he sold us on the fact that he was going to walk the talk. And I'm grateful to the fact that you're still walking it, and we still got a ways to go. We all know that because some of the things have not come into fruition yet, but we're looking forward to that. And certainly, Deputy Tisdale, it's always a pleasure to even because you're a Pittsburgh fan. I can deal with that, but I just want you to let you know that you got. Well, is it 3 Bills fan at the table?
No.
Ooh.
Hey, I ain't gonna bother.
There goes our no Miranda zone question right there. You don't have a right to remain silent. Outside of Alfred.
Right. No, Green Bay fan.
Wow.
Green Bay Packers,
I thought we were talking about football.
Now that's funny.
Boy.
You tell people that, huh? That's pretty impressive.
I actually do. I tell Dallas fans that a lot.
Now he's happy.
I'm happy about that too. But again, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
This old body on the. I appreciate it, Sheriff.
Love you all, and thanks for a great episode. And we're going to skip the no Miranda zone because we got Green Bay out of you. We didn't have to read your Miranda, right? So till next week, everybody, God bless you, and keep our stories today in your mind through this month. Thanks.